Good afternoon. My name is Diane Brim. I'm with Gulf Coast Bank and Trust. I'm the branch manager of the Covington branches. And Gulf Coast Bank is very involved in our community. We offer many financial literacy seminars, and we began this a couple of years ago because we saw a tremendous need throughout our footprint where our branches are located. And Gulf Coast Bank, being a local owned and operated community bank, we felt it our responsibility to become involved and take some action in this area. Today's seminar is going to be on marriage and money, and it's a very sticky subject. We've seen some marriages over the years fail over financial issues, and so this helps you get some ideas about what you need to do, how to talk about some subject. Bennett Blackledge is the coordinator of our community outreach program, and he's going to present the seminar for you today.
Thanks, Diane. Before we get started, just a couple of things. Anyone have questions, please, you can stop and we'll answer those questions. Very informal. I want to make sure people walk away with answers. In the back, if you haven't picked it up, a budget sheet. I think one of the things that's critical with folks who are about to get married, and even if you are married already, but that you understand that you have to budget. And this particular document is a monthly budget worksheet. You know, what you're going to do is you're going to list everything as it's categorized. You're going to look to see. But you really want to make sure that you're following a budget. Still, at my young age, I write a grocery list down and I go. I stay to the grocery list because that's going to keep me on budget. And as we're talking about marriage and money, that's the main thing. We got to make sure that we're both on the same page. Anyone that writes out of that checkbook, we're doing the same things. We're thinking the same way as it relates to how we purchase things, how we save, all of those things. The first part of our program is 12 questions. It's a neat part of the program. You kind of see how men and women react to different financial situations. So we're going to kind of go over that first, and then we're going to get right into the presentations. So we're going to look at some of the questions. When paying a credit card bill, men are more likely to pay only the minimum balance, try to pay off a higher amount to pay the balance down much faster, request an increase to their credit line so they can buy that 84-inch 4D TV that they've been eyeing. Who wants to tell me, what do they think that answer would be? Yeah?
Try to pay off a higher amount.
All right, so try to pay off a higher amount to pay the balance down much faster. All right, so again, women are more likely to pay just the minimum amount due on their credit cards, 42% compared to only 38% of men. 29% of women versus 23% of men admit paying late fees. But over the course of a year, 15% of men take out a cash advance compared to only 12% of the women. So the whole idea with these questions is just to share with you how people are thinking. And remember, the ideal situation is that you're thinking most of it the same way. When it comes to saving money, women are more likely to put money aside for unexpected emergencies, hope that they come up with it somehow when the need arises. What do you think? You think they put money on the side? Put money aside for unexpected emergencies. Despite having lower average earnings, 77 cents for every male dollar, women are better savers. Women's earnings between $20,000 and $40,000, they save an average of $17,000 in their 401k as of the year ended September 30th, 2014. Men in the same salary range save an average of $15,000. So there's a difference in what they do, what they save, and how they save. All right, true or false? Men outnumber women 2-to-1 when it comes to impulse buying. Would you say true or false?
True.
It's false. Women are twice as likely as men to make impulse purchases. In addition, 23.7% of women can't resist a sale, while only 4.5% of men can say the same. Okay? When men are looking for ways to boost their mood, they will most likely All right, so purchase a new shirt or shoes, drown their sorrows in thick shakes and double cheeseburgers, buy a music album or book, buy an electronic component, or all of the above. They go after the thick shake and the double cheeseburger. All right, makes them feel good. 64% of women admit that shopping for clothes and cosmetics lightens their state of mind, though the number is much higher for the man. The 38.9% of males who do shop tend to open up their wallets for food, followed by electronics, music, and movies. Okay? A lot of this information, again, comes from a number of the different sites like eBay and Amazon. They keep statistics on a lot of stuff. When making a major purchase, women will most likely spend hours comparison shopping for the best deal. Go to the store, compare price there, and make a decision. Spend hours comparison shopping for the best deal. Women take 40% more time to make a purchase than men and more likely to comparison shop for the better price. That goes for credit cards, as well as 38% of women will spend time examining credit card offerings to get the best interest rate compared to only 33% of the men. Men are also more likely to accept a product that is less than ideal to avoid more shopping. They just want to go in, get out, and then go get the shake and the cheeseburger. Okay? What's really important here is to remember, a lot of times folks talk to Diane and I about, they're always looking for that best deal on that credit card. And that's not always a smart thing to do, because on your credit report, you're closing, open, closing, you're throwing red flags up. So if you're doing this early on, my suggestion is if you're looking for a card, figure out what your hobbies are. Maybe you like to travel. Maybe you want triple the cash back or whatever. Figure that out, then go look at them. And then at that point, I would suggest that you're looking for no annual fees, the best rate. And again, your rate's going to be based on your credit score. But that's when you would do that shopping. I don't advocate people going after zeros and constantly moving balances. Call your credit card company. Look, I've been with you for 5 years. I got a better deal offered to me. What can you do for me? In most cases, you have a payment history. They're going to talk to you and do something for you. So it's really important to think about that. True or false, the number one category for male purchases online is electronics. False. For women, clothes, shoes, accessories lead the way. For men, it's travel, then clothes, and auctions. Although 72% of women prefer to shop online versus 68% of men, they both report equally that their favorite online retail sites are Amazon and eBay. When it comes to apps, women are more likely to pay for them. And while we're talking about, apps on phones, apps on your computers. Social media news, navigation, and shopping. Which one of the apps you think women are more likely to pay for? Social media news. Women install 40% more apps than men, buy 17% more paid apps, and pay an astonishing 87% more for those apps. Top apps for men, business, games, and navigation. Games is almost the first now. A lot of folks are buying, a lot of men are buying games, that they can download. When it comes to charities, women donate to charities as much greater rate than men do. Men donate to charity at a much greater rate than women. Men and women donate at equal rates.
Equal rates.
Women donate to charity at a much greater rate than men. And believe me, charities know that, and they target that a lot of times. Some of your mails that you get, those type of things, they'll target that audience. Women donate to charity at a much greater rate than men. In particular, women with an income of more than $100,000 a year gave 2 times as much as their counterparts, their males. Before grocery shopping, men scour the circulars for weekly deals, stick to their regular list no matter what the cost.
Stick to the list.
Stick to the regular list. I'm one of the few that grabs the paper on Wednesdays to get my chicken breast for $1.58. More than 75% of women consult shopping circulars when creating their shopping list, and 57% of women will include an item on their list if they have a coupon for it. Women also comprise the majority of the U.S. audience on deal of the day services such as coupons and at 62%. And you know, they have these shows that show these folks that coupon and do those things. And there's major savings. But it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. When it comes to financial markets and investing, most men believe they know less than the average investor, more than the average investor. More than the average investor. Those are all the women, for those that are watching us, skating more. 72.8% of men strongly believe they know more than the average investor compared to only 44.7% of women. But how much people think they know and how much they actually know can be two very different matters, says Michael Lurch, head of behavioral finance of the Bank of America Merrill Lynch. He added, men tend to feel like they should know what the decision is that they're making, so they tend towards these high levels of confidence, whereas women are much more likely to say they don't know, and again, seek financial help with someone, a financial planner. True or false, men are better than women at managing debt.
False.
False. On average, men carry 4.3% more debt than women, and their home loans are 4.9% higher. Although men seem to be more comfortable taking on debt, they get into financial trouble more frequently than women. Men are also more likely to fall 60 days or more behind on their mortgage. Many of my clients are men, and I've helped them get out of their financial troubles, says Diane Nichols, president of Gold Key Consulting, a credit management firm in Fairfield, Connecticut. She adds, most women don't come back a second time. In other words, they learn, they understand, they're probably doing a budget, because if you don't have that budget, you're really not taking advantage. The budget allows you, I have to sit down with couples all the time, and where they get real upset with me is I got to stop both of them taking lunch every day. I got to stop them going out and eating, getting the lobster and the filet mignon. But they just don't, it's not top of mind because they don't know what they're spending. And in some cases, they might be spending $1,200 a month doing those things. Bring your lunch from home. You know, the average lunch is at least $10. When two of you are doing that, you can see how much it counts. So, and that really takes a toll on the budget, really, especially if you have kids. If women find themselves in financial trouble, they will often seek financial assistance with a financial planner or credit consultant, try to work it out on their own, embarrassed to admit their troubles. They want to seek because they want to get it under control quickly. And if they haven't been able to figure it out by now and they're at their point, they know they've got to get. So again, men outnumber men 2 to 1 when it comes to seeking help with debt management, according to credit counseling experts. Many men will tell me that they're embarrassed giving lengthy explanations or actually saying that I must think less of them. Again, when we see folks every day, a lot of it is coming to us, getting to the point where they get to the door because they're embarrassed about their situation or they don't know if they want to share everything. The only way you can get help is to seek someone that does this every day, and they can give you a plan. We put financial plans together for folks every day. We sit with couples and we tell them what they have to do. Now, it's not always good news, but in most cases we can organize everything, organize the debt, and get them on a plan. That's what's important. Especially getting married, just being newlyweds, there's a whole lot of other things that you'll be challenged with. When you throw this in the mix, it just makes for arguing and doing a lot of things that really you can avoid. So what this says, if you answered 0 to 4 correctly, maybe that joint checking account was not such a good idea. Proceed with a frank conversation, not only with your partner, but seek us out. We do this free for folks all day long. And this is just telling them, look, if you found yourself where you weren't on the same page on these things. And again, and as we get into the seminar next, you'll see you want to respect each other's strengths. Some of you the woman may be stronger in making sure that bills are paid on time, making sure there's no late fees. And maybe the man may make sure there has money in the account. They may both work, but making sure. So there's nothing wrong with sharing those things, and we'll talk more as we get in. Let me just change and get into the, not me change the slides for it, but get into the actual presentation real quick. Protecting your money, protecting your romance. Like I said, when you're first getting married, but even if you're married and you're finding yourself spending a lot of time stressing on the issues, I'll have some statistics for you in just a second on how much of that takes place. The whole idea is communicating. You got to communicate. Money does not need to control or define a marriage. You and your partner talk a lot about money while planning for the wedding, or how much you'll spend on the reception, or where you can afford to honeymoon. And you know, there's a lot of other things during a relationship that folks talk about. It just blows me away that there's not that discussion as it relates to finances. And I'm not saying that for all, because some of it is. But we talk about everything else, you know, ancestries, you know, history of each families, things we like to do. But a lot of times folks don't talk about, you know, what do I do when I want something? Not need, want something. Do I go put it on the credit card? Do I go, or am I saving for it? Okay, so again, those kind of things need to be discussed. Before you get married, you should be talking about money and shared financial goals. In other words, what's the your fiancés or if you're already married, you know, what type of goals? You know you want to retire one day. If you have children, how do you want to educate those children? You know, today, just their primary education is costing more than college. So you've got to start that savings. And then you've got the whole college issue as well. Creating a budget that works out as you're sharing. Make sure you use that budget. Starting off the wedding, starting off your marriage, it's really important that, you know, one, you've got that budget. Two, y'all are participating in 401ks. Maybe your work office, maybe they match 4%. You want to do at least 4%, but then you really want to get to 10 and even 15% to be able to meet your retirement goals. If you're talking about putting kids through private school, you got to look at that type of budget. You got to be looking at term life insurance. Young folks, 19 to 28 or 30, you can get $1 million policy. It could be $17 to $25 a month. And you get it for 20 years. And you do that because you're healthy, you're able to, and it's term, so it's the same amount through the term of the policy. That's incredibly important because people say to me, Bennett, we don't have really any assets, but you're going to get assets. You're going to get a home. Private mortgage insurance is more than term life. You can include that in your term life insurance. Okay, PMI insurance is going to cost you more with the term. And then there's other things, other assets that you will acquire that will make sense. If something happens to you, you don't know how many people we see, 26 to 30, with different types of cancers today. And once you get cancer in your profile, your insurance, if they insure you, it's much higher rate. So as young folks, it's a great time to get that type of thing. Talk about each partner's credit history scores. This is critical. This is probably one of the most critical things. You know, what did they do when they were a student and they were younger? If they left checks out there, if they left things, so what is their score? Because if you're thinking about purchasing a home, today you got to have at least 620, but in most cases 640. And the higher your score is, the better your rate's going to be, your permanent rate. So you want to have it as high as possible. So talk about that. You know, the bad news is, if you find out somebody's not done it right, the good news is you can turn it around. You have time to turn it around and fix it. So make sure you have those conversations. Have they been responsible? If not, you want them responsible. In your relationship, both of you need to be responsible, pay them on time so that your credit credit counts for everything. When I was young, the credit only counted for what it was I was applying for. Today, the apartment's going to check you, your car insurance, your job, and certainly your cost of money, what it costs you for money. So you want to make sure you're doing that. Making long-term financial plans for your life together. I mean, again, retirement, our health care. It's not too, if you set those plans in place, the earlier you start, the bigger your pot's going to be at the end. And at least be sitting down with folks. Have someone, we've got financial planners in each one of our office, that spend time with our customers, looking at your retirement, helping you set it up. Midlife, are we on track? And then as you get ready to retire, are you ready to retire? And they're with you the whole way, trying to make sure you're doing the right things. So the earlier you start, the better it is. Have you talked about how you're going to handle financial decisions after you tie the knot? So, in other words, we're going to talk when we make major purchases. And what I try to tell folks, those things that you have to have, the needs, the groceries, the milk, the bread, those things are needs. We know that. We're going to budget that. But those wants, we really want to save for them. We don't want to be in the business of putting it on a credit card. And I tell folks, too, as you have children, you're teaching them. What they're going to do when they get older is what they saw mom and dad do. So if that's how you're living, you really want to rethink that. I had a couple last year that come to me. The gentleman was bragging about this 4K TV he was going to get. Now, he had gotten a 3K and he had gotten some other ones before. And he was going to go to Best Buy and charge. And I said, no, do me a favor. And his wife was standing right there. I said, make sure he saves for it. Promise me, yep, I'll do it. Well, by the time he saved for it, he realized he had 3 TVs at home. And he said, you know what? I realized what it took to save for it. And if you go through that process, you may make a different decision. And that's what I hope. I don't want to see people going out and getting all those things and amassing a lot of debt to have to deal with it. Okay? How money impacts your relationship is up to you. It's up to you. There's no secrets. Everything needs to be out in the open. Everybody sees what's going on. But you do have to agree how you're going to do things. That's critical. So here's some research. Married people have more money. All right? That would make sense because there's 2 incomes. Consumer debt strains a marriage. We know that. Assets strengthen a marriage. Husband and wives, men and women, tend to see their personal financial world differently. Just in those 12 questions we looked at before we started this, we realized that we think different. Men and women think different. And we're not trying to change somebody. We're trying to get both parties to realize this particular way is the best way going forward for us. It's going to give us the best at the end. Okay? Finances in marriage has had a troubled history in recent decades, with about half of unions ending in divorce. And that number is at about 62% now. So we know it has an impact. Honest communication early in the relationship will not only help the financial planning process, but also helps planning for all your long-term goals. Okay? Long-term goals are critical. They're critical for you to meet because you want to. When people were hit in 2008 and 2009 with all the different things, and even today we're seeing stock market go up and down, it impacts their ability. I really wanted to retire, and a lot of times we're having to tell them, you know what, we're not quite there yet because you had these hiccups, because the stock market did this or did that. So we're having to tell folks we've got to hold on just a little bit longer to make sure we have those goals. So it's important that you define shared goals. According to American Institute of Certified Public Accountants surveys, the average couple argues about money 3 times a month. Okay? A quarter of couples say money is the most common reason they fight. Well, and that's crazy, right? I mean, we should come to some terms. We should be able to talk about it. And I think the problem is we say, well, you know what? She's going to be mad if I bring it up. We need to talk about it. I don't want to go home and fight. So sometimes it's, presenting it, how you present it, but really in a discussion where both of you can talk about it. But when couples come to us, that's a lot of times, you know, they wanted to talk about it, but they didn't. But if you bring it up to both of us, then maybe we can sit and talk. And so sometimes that may be your answer. Go to a third party that has no skin in the game, but they spend time working with people every day. And we're going to teach you how to have the conversation. Because at the end of the day, it's important to come to terms. Okay? So you're going to talk about buying a home. You know, I remember a lot of folks I tell, you know, the things you've got to think about when buying a home. And we did first-time home buying. They'll be doing it in Slidell tomorrow, I believe. But the main thing about buying a home, you want to talk about, you know, private mortgage insurance. If we have 20% or more down, we don't have to have that. So maybe the goal is, let's save 20% before we start looking. Let's go first, sit down with a mortgage originator to see what we'd be approved for. You know, so you kind of plan. When that mortgage originator sits down and says, you know, you got a 640, all you got to do is change payments on some of these credit cards where you're at 90% of the line. If you drop it below 30% of the line, you'll pick up more points. That's the fastest way to get points on your credit bureau. So have that discussion early on so you know what you got to do, you know how much you got to save for, not to have that PMI, and then you know what you need to get to have the best rate. That's what we want, our cost of money. Think about it, because you know an A 750 score versus a 600 score could be $130,000 over a 30-year term, $200,000 mortgage. Think about it. You know, for an automobile, a 3-year automobile, $25,000, that could be $4,800 difference. So all of those things add up, and it's just so important to realize, both of you understanding that if you start off right, you're just going to be doing the right things. You're training yourself. Look, we have classes that start in kindergarten that we do for schools. If I get the students before they become young financial folks, they'll be doing the right things, and that's what we want to do. And that's why we've got to get our school systems to have financial programs in them. Most of them don't have anything. So, really important. But again, at this point, you want to be doing it. You need to talk about, if you're going to have children, how you're going to educate those children. Is the school systems where you are good, so that you can use the public school system? I can tell you, I lived in Baton Rouge. We had over a 50-year DSEG case. It took all the money out of it. We were 46 out of 60. You know, so the parochial private schools, they had a ton of them because everybody was sending them there. But it's very expensive to do that, and so you got to figure out how you're going to manage that. If you've got a good public school system, that's great. You know, as the different cities broke away, the Centrals, the Zachary's number 1 in the state, Central's number 3. So you can see, you know, but all of our money was going to lawyers and going for this DSEG case, and that's sad. So, what type of education would you be planning for your children? Again, whether it's primary school or whether it's college, you've got to make sure those college expenses are taken care of. And I'll tell you, your wealth management or your financial planner can spend a lot of time with you on this, even before you start having children, because there's a lot of programs. The state's got a great program, the START program, which is like a 529, where they do some matching of your deposits you put into it. The only thing I'm worried about is now with the budget, you don't know whether TOPS or that program is going to be there. But there are other things you can do, a certain amount of dollars you can put aside. And you want to start early, because those expenses continue to rise. How will you protect each other's health care and retirement? That's critical. You're going to want to, you know, they're telling today that you have to have at minimum $1 million to retire. That's what they're telling people. You have to live the lifestyle you're living now. And that figure may be 1.5 now, because that's been going on for 18 months, 2 years. And I hear a commercial on radio all the time. If you don't have $1 million, you shouldn't be looking at retiring. Somebody advertising. But the point is, you've got to think of those things. Healthcare costs too. When do I get long-term care? Well, you don't get it at 17, but you know you got to have it, so you got to plan for it. So maybe the magic number, really, you know, genes and how long you live, all those kind of things kind of tie into that. But you got to think about all that. There's nothing wrong about thinking of it now, because you're thinking of it at your youngest point, where you're just starting to make income. Remember, the rest of your life, your income will be increasing. But what I want you to do is make the right decisions. Like for a home, I wouldn't spend more than 25% of my income. And you're going to get approved for more, but I've seen things happen in people's lives where the mom ends up having to stay home. And that's okay because you plan for it. You don't know. Things could happen. And this gives you options. It gives you choices. Manage your spending. This is critical. Diane and I talk about this all the time when we talk about people's credit score and stuff. The budget, I can't, how many times have I said, if you don't take anything away today, take away, you got to make sure you're living on a budget. I don't care how young you are, I don't care how old you are. You need to be on a budget. You really do. All right? Live within your means. Don't keep up with folks. I used to have my kids all the time. So-and-so's got a Mercedes this, and she's only 17. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I made a deal with my kids. I'll match whatever you put up. The good thing about kids is they have no tolerance for time. They're very impatient. So I only had to put up $2,500. At the end of the day, with 5, the most I only had to put up was $2,500. And they had skin in the game. They took care of it. I took care of their insurance as long as they stayed in school. But you want to teach, again, like I said earlier on, kids are watching what we're doing. And we want to teach them that we're not keeping up with anybody. We're going to do the sensible thing. We're going to live within our means. And we really want to do that. We want to make sure we do it. And if we start young, these big things that people come to us and tell us they're doing, we've already got the mindset of how we're going to spend money. How we make that purchase. And we're going to think through it. We're not going to go in and have that new car smell, got to have it. We're just not going to do those kind of things because it doesn't make sense. All right? Make sure that you have an emergency fund. That's critical. And normally they define emergency fund as 3 to 6 months of your bill. People look at it, Bennett, I can't do that much. All right, put a $500 at a time. Get something up there because emergency happens. Some part of the car breaks down. The air conditioner at home goes out. Different thing. And it is truly emergency fund. It's not a vacation fund. It's not buy Tim a new car fund. It is an emergency fund. Only used for emergencies. Those are critical to you. Okay? Shared cost. Certainly when you bring and you're married, everything should be all the bills. You inherit hers. He inherits your. It's all yours now. So the plan is right at marriage. How are we going to pay these off? Okay? And that's what we see now when folks doing a lot of. Man, I didn't realize when we combined our debt we had this much. All right? It's overwhelming to some folks. That's fine. Sit down with somebody. Put a plan together. Take care of it. That's critical. No, you keep yours until you pay it off. No, you mix it all. Put it all together. Which yours is hers, what's hers is yours, and you have it, and you share it, and you tackle it together. That's what you're supposed to do. Plan for large purchases. Talk about it, plan for it. Do we have to have it? If it's an air conditioner going out, guess what? That's a short conversation. Got to have it, right? So now we're looking for the best price, and do they finance for 24 months? I'd rather use somebody else's money, to be honest with you. 0%, 24 months, that's fine. All right? Then we've got to put that in the budget. But, some of the conversations are long. Cabin in Colorado, it's a long conversation. Maybe even a brand new TV when you got 10 is a long conversation. But some of these are short because it's things you have to have. Shop to make sure you're getting best price. With the internet, not only is it convenient because everybody delivers free to you, but it's just one of the best little tools to go out and see what you're going to pay, and even the sites that compare the other sites. Same item, they go in comparison and show them to you. I strongly recommend shopping. Again, this gives you more money. And one person may like doing that. Maybe the husband really enjoys doing that. That's fine. Let him do it. That's appreciating what each other brings to the table. But again, all you're doing, and think about a lifetime, over a lifetime, what that means to you in savings. Perform regular financial checkups, okay? Now some would say, well, how long you... So let's say we're talking about retirement. At least once a year, you ought to sit down with that person that's working with you on that retirement. At least once a year. And I'm going to tell you something. When the stock market drops, if you don't get a call from your financial advisor, I'd consider getting another one. Because those that run away when it gets bad, I don't like that. I don't like it. I want to be able to talk to them. Now, I'm probably going to do the same thing. Hey, Bennett, look, it's all under control. You're at an age, it gets ebb and flows. It's going to level off. It's going to pick up. You know, China, all prices are doing this. But they're taking the time to make you feel good. Because, you know, getting nauseated a little bit when we see some of this stuff. So it's real important that they make you feel good. So make sure your relationship with your banker should be the same way. You know, you should be able to pick up the phone at any time. Look, somebody lost a job. Maybe we can do some things for you. Maybe you have a car note with us and we can move that car note out a little bit so it's not reporting. When now you've had a layoff, you need to be able to pay the basic stuff. We might be able to help you. I'm not saying you got to go in and see them every day and pet them. I'm just saying know them, have conversation, because they can help you. They can help you on so many fronts. That's just one of the examples, but others help you planning if things are going on, all of those different things. Money shared beliefs and values. What are your beliefs or values for each of these categories? Again, what we're trying to do is understand either our fiance. You may be married for 15 years and still don't have these answers. So, but you need to get them. You need to get them because, again, it causes problems if you don't have them. So you know, spend. How do you spend? You know, we've given this example about going to get that TV because we've got to have it. So if you're one that every time you want something, you go out and just charge it, that's not a good behavior. That's not a good behavior. And I'm not saying you got to rally to come to an agreement that you're going to talk about those special tools that someone may want. What I'm saying now is we both understand we're in a different place. We were single before. It was just all about me, you know, and mom and dad maybe, you know. But the bottom line is now you're thinking about having children. You're thinking about long-term things. So those short-term things that help you feel real good short-term, you need to really be thinking differently on how you're doing that. You know, what are you doing? Savings. How do we save? You know, hopefully everybody agrees we're going to take a certain percentage and we're going to put that in savings. I'm going to match my 401k at work at least when I start. But I want you, as you get raises, I want you to increase your 401k from, you know, 10% up to 15%. If you can do more, do more. But you want to get to that point because savings is critical to you. I also strongly recommend saving for Christmas. A lot of banks, we have still the Christmas Club savings. It's great because people that go out at Christmas time with a credit card, they don't think. But if they go out with $1,000 and that's it, they're going to budget. They're going to look and see what the cost of things. Don't go out without a list. Don't go out with just a credit. Put that Christmas Club up, move that money to your checking account, and you have that. And you base that on what you spent before, but maybe you're spending too much. You know, the average across the country is normally for Christmas of 2 kids and parents, $750 a year. Okay, that's a lot less than a lot of people are spending. But remember the reason for the season. It's not about giving to others and doing it for folks, but you know, it's not about the commercialized piece of all of it. So again, savings, when I talk about savings, I'm talking about saving for that 401k. I'm talking about making sure that emergency fund is funded. I'm talking about making sure, you know, that the term insurance is in place, Christmas clubs are in place. Maybe you have a vacation fund and you got something set up for that. That's fine. You both agree to how much you're going to put there, but you're meeting all the other things. You've got to set the priorities right. And that's the main thing, is setting those priorities and agreeing to it. Okay? Doing any type of investing. Maybe the investing piece is in your IRAs. There's different ways, you know, that you can get IRAs. There's the Roths, the traditionals, but there are also IRAs where you can tell somebody you may want to buy rental property. You know, so there's a lot of different things you can be doing. I know folks that do a lot of that through their IRA, and that property is listed. You know, you can't go out and cash and take that out. It's still an IRA, but it's the way, it's what they call self-directed. You know, but still think about that that investment can be part of your retirement. Okay, there's many different ways you can get to that. Sharing, you know, sharing in expenses, sharing in things. You know, talking, if there's something that each of you want, you got to just look and see if the money's there. Have the conversations. I've been wanting that iPad, whatever. That's fine. You just want to budget for it. You don't want to take away from what you're doing. And certainly if you're strapped, that's not a time to go out and buy a lot of accessories, things that you may not have planned for. Giving. That's really important. You want to make sure how each of you feel about that. Do you give 10%, 15% to your church or to a charity? It's really important to talk about that. Because in a lot of people, this is a critical part of their life. They want to make sure they're doing it, they're supporting. Or maybe there's a cause they're supporting. Maybe somebody had cancer and they want to support these different cancer events, not only locally, but at MD Anderson, whatever. You want to be cognitive of those things that before you were married, both of you were doing things, and it's okay to continue. You have to have the conversation. You understand how your spouse feels about each of these categories. How far apart are your beliefs, and how important are they to each of you? What will it take to get you closer to believe? Because all of these things are critical that you come to and I'm not saying throw somebody else's thoughts completely. Maybe meet in the middle. It's just important to have the conversation and to make sure you come to some agreement. Okay? You got to come to an agreement. You can't just, if I start talking about it, there's fire. There's always fire. You got to talk through it. You got to make sure of it. When you finally agree on what you're spending, you should always be able to answer these questions. All right. What is it that we're agreeing to do? And that's obvious. So let's say we're talking about the giving, the charities. We're agreeing on these charities that we're going to do this percentage of our income, and we're going to do it monthly or whenever. We want to make sure we agree to that. How do we make it actionable? We can set it up where it's automatic pay if we're still talking about that. But again, we've got to make what we've agreed to actionable. Maybe what we agreed to was on the 401k. We've got to make sure that we go ahead and let payroll know to take this much out to put in that 401k. All right, so that's the action we've got to make sure. Does this enhance our lives? So everything you talk about, especially when you're talking about being newlyweds or 15-year into marriage, all of these things we've talked about have some enhancement to your life. And what you have to both agree is that, yes, that is an enhancement to our life. That's what's critical, that both of you realize that it's enhancing your life. Okay? I can't impress upon this anymore, but communicate, communicate, communicate. It's been said that communication is the key. This is especially true in a marriage. Once you begin communicating, you're able to compromise and make mutually agreeable decisions about your financial future. It's critical to talk. And, not to worry about if someone gets, let them calm down. Maybe tea calms them down. Maybe, maybe an old rerun of Red Skeleton Show. But the main, or comedy or something. But you want to get back. You want to have that discussion. That's why it's so important. And prior to getting married, y'all were able to talk about stuff. But when it comes to finances, you'll see people don't talk as easily about those things. But it is critical to do it. It's my money, I earn it, I ought to be able to do whatever I want to do. Well, that's a selfish thought. You've got to come together and agree how you're going to do it. It's critical because remember, what's at the end? That you're meeting goals, your kids are going to the college, your retirement's in place. Those are those goals that you got to keep reminding yourself, that's why I'm doing these things. That's why I'm putting some structure in how I finance things or purchase things, okay? What makes it tough to talk about money in your home? All right. Do you feel that you don't have knowledge on the subject? Some people may say, my mother and dad took care of me all the way through. I don't know. Well, that's a good time to educate. It's a real good time to educate. To start, this is why we're doing this. This is, and it could be either or third party, a Diane or Bennett that could sit down with folks. Did this type of discussion cause problems with your parents when you were young? And I bring that up because I keep telling you, your kids are going to watch what you do. There was a poll that came out in November of last year, and it was freshmen and sophomore and juniors, about 100,000 kids, and they were asked, where did they get, 88% of them, where did they get their financial, how they do their financing, how they do things. 88% of them said it was watching their parents. Okay? So So we have to be good role models, you know. And so when it's a tense argument, we bring it down because we know what the end result is. But at the end, we come with a solution. Would you prefer your spouse to make these types of decisions? You know, I think you probably want to have it between the two of you. I think it's really important. Because guess what? If the decision's bad, what are you going to do? You're going to blame that other person that you let. Well, you know, you made the decision. So you really want to make sure. And there's going to be some decisions, you know, my Exxon Mobil stock might not be a good idea right now, you know. But there's going to be some things we said, all right, we learn from that, we move forward. Again, compromise too. Communication. There's also compromise. Okay? Do these types of discussions lead to arguments that lead to no one talking? And they may, but we got to bring those back. We can't walk off. We got to agree, you know, we're going to figure this one out. And so if we have 4 things we want to figure out and talk about, guess what? Maybe we do it over 4 nights. All right? Talk about the toughest one on the first night, you know. But at the end of the day, you're going to have a lot other things that come along that you're going to have to talk about. So it doesn't make any sense not to have that discussion. And, you know, you should know your partner well enough to know what type of person and that they're reasonable. Hopefully you knew that, you know. Everyone has a different style of communicating. How do you like talking about money? Do you prefer all the facts laid out or just the high points? You know, and normally you know that about the spouse because you've been with them and you've had conversations on other things. He doesn't want the details. He just wants to know, here's the end result and here's how we have to get there. And that's okay. You know, later you'll probably come back, now why did we do that? And you'll have that detail. But the point is, you know that better than anyone else with your spouse, and so you're going to determine how it is y'all going to have that discussion. Know your preference or style. And know what you like, and get to know what your spouse, how they want stuff presented to them. And you know, hopefully you don't have a spouse where you got to skirt around it or dance around it. You really want to go right in. Who's got time to try and sugarcoat stuff? And these are the facts. Know your spouse's preference or style. That's what we just said. It's important, and you should. Learn how to connect those different styles, especially when talking about money. Again, money is one of the biggest subjects that causes the most arguments. We see it, we hear about it. I was telling Diane earlier today about a call I had with a customer a couple of weeks ago on a wife, you know, Benny, can you help me out? So the two of you need to come in. It was husband wanted to help his son by taking from the 401k to put a down payment on a house. That's not a good idea. Because the $20,000 ends up really being around $32,000, $35,000 because you got to pay taxes and you got to pay penalties, and you got 2 other daughters. What are you going to do for them? So we did. We brought everybody together and we talked about it, and they realized the impact. You know, so sometimes it's just that phone call to help. But again, she knew she had to deal with it because she wanted to make sure there she was looking after their retirement together. She was thinking about them. And we all love our kids and want to do it, but we're better off teaching our children. You don't need a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home right out of college. You can live in an apartment for a little while. Okay? But we're much better doing that because we build character. Life happens anyway. Couples rarely have the same financial expertise. One spouse with certain skills may lead, and that's okay. One may focus on day-to-day bill paying and cash flow, the other on investing. Both need to be involved with decisions, or it can lead to problems. All right? So you want to remember, talk about finances and spending habits before you get married. Define your short-term and long-term goals to each other. You know, one of the examples that would be, all right, so we're going to do this 4% for retirement for 10 years. And then we're moving up to, I want to tell you move up to 10, but you might say 8. We're going to have some movement up because you know what our goal is. We want to get to 15. And the longer we can get to 10 or 15%, the shorter time, the longer we're there, and the more money we make for retirement. That's just an example of one of the things. There's a number of short-term and long-term goals. Different insurance, everything else. Manage your spending. Critical, we talked about that. So stay within your means. Don't need to keep up with anybody. All right? Communicate, communicate, communicate. And if you leave with nothing today, that's the most critical. Any questions from anybody?
I have one.
Yes.
My husband wants to know what's the priority, saving or paying off debt?
Well, at the end of the day, saving is critical, but early to pay off the debt, as long as you're not going to get back into that debt, I would put an emphasis. I'd still have some savings, okay? And then I would look at managing the debt. And so what we talk about there is, now we're using two incomes. We've combined the debt. We're going to go ahead and put the largest credit card to the smallest. We're going to pay minimums on the credit card, and everything left over, we're going to hit the smallest balance. So many people say, Bennett, why wouldn't I go after the largest balance, the one with the highest rate? Because it's a psychological thing. If you got a $20,000 American Express card and you're making your little bitty payments, you're frustrated because you never see it. All it's doing is drop it. But if the Home Depot at $200 is paid, the Sears at $250 is paid, and you're seeing all these other ones, by the time you get to the big one, you got all the money, right? So that's going to go away much faster. So go ahead and take care of it. Still keep some type of savings, especially if you have two incomes. I might have a different equation if I had the single income. You know, where but put something in savings just so you're in the habit. Make sure you're matching the 401k no matter what. If your company, do something to the 401k, especially if it's matching, make sure you do that. Your emergency fund, some type of emergency fund needs to be there. And then start tackling the debt before you start putting in all the other bigger numbers. I would grab the debt first. But I've learned from it. You don't know how many people I see that come in for a HELOC, and we pay off all the debt, and 7 years later they come in for a HELOC to pay off all the debt. You don't want to do that. We want to learn from it, okay? And we do have one, and y'all think about it when we have it next time over here, and it's called Understanding Your Credit, Rebuilding Your Credit. It's an excellent seminar where we go into a lot more detail. But definitely, good question. Definitely we want to get rid of the debt, because the debt causes a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety on people. And if we can get rid of that, guess what? We're going to be able to catch up on those 401ks, on those, because now we have everything. And we're going to think differently on how we make purchases. We're going to think differently on how we spend money. That's critical. Yes, sir.
How damaging is a student loan debt? My wife had this ridiculously high debt, which she kind of gave up on years before we got married, so it's kind of in limbo right now. And, you know, it's such a large amount that it's almost crippling. So I'm thinking she's already in this state where it's been years since she paid anything on it. The damage is done. I have pristine credit, so I could get whatever I need, like more credit cards. I could, you know, should we focus on buying a house, you know, without paying off that, because it could delay us quite a bit.
Well, how long has the student loan debt been unpaid or?
Over 10 years.
Okay, so at 10 years, there is a program, I don't know if y'all have looked into it, where you can file forms for debt forgiveness. Sometimes they forgive it all. Sometimes they may only make you pay 10% back. I think you really want to engage just to see what your options are. And you can go back. Does she have multiple loans, or is it under one?
I think it's just one, and
okay.
It got passed off to maybe a collection. I don't know what the deal is.
Right. So
she has nothing else, no credit, nothing else except for this large amount.
Right. And I would tell you, 10 years, you're correct. It's hitting the credit a lot less than it would in the first couple of years. So it's impacting you score-wise a lot less than it would. But I think just for the right thing, and some people are getting that debt forgiven completely. It's just forms that's got to be completed. And this administration put in this forgiveness program. You can just go to the website, and it's student loan forgiveness. Just put that in, and it'll give you the different reasons you can, components that you can. Naturally, it's forgiven in many cases when that person may not have a high-paying job or whatever. And if it's her debt, you know, they'd be looking at her stuff. So I just look and see. But to your point, yeah, you can probably get the house, because on yours, if you're stopping things because of that, I would just have that discussion to see, because you may find that there's more being forgiven than you think, or they're just saying, you know, we'll agree to this amount. But there is a student loan forgiveness program that's out there.
One of our Periscope viewers wants to know, she says she has a set income and her husband's income is seasonal. Is it best to make herself the main borrower for vehicle purchases or the home that they're seeking to buy?
What I would do is determine who has the highest score, because score is going to drive the interest rate, and then let the other person be a co-borrower, because you may need, even if it's seasonal income, you may still need that income to get approved. The first thing you want to do if you're looking at purchasing a home is go ahead and get with a mortgage originator. Get an idea of what you're approved for based on the salary. And you probably want to put both of them in, even though it's seasonal, put both of them in. But the primary on the home should be the one with the higher score. Or if they're borrowing money, maybe they're doing a HELOC, put that person as the first, as the borrower, because they have a better score, so your score is going to be based on that. And the co-borrower would be the other person.
Thank you.
Home equity line of credit. So maybe she has a home that she owns, and let's say if the home is worth $200,000, and she's got she only owes $100 on it. That $100,000 is equity. So home equity line of credit is what HELOC stands for. You take the equity in that home, and you may pay down debt, you may remodel the house, or whatever. You know, I look at it strongly when people are paying down debt, because I want to make sure this is the last time we do this. Because if we weren't good advisors and helpful to our folks, they don't come back to us. You know, we live in those communities. We want to make sure they're doing the right things. We want to make sure that we're helping them. So I'm going to tell them, look, we're going to do this time, but we're going to have a different mindset of how we spend money. Because we want to make sure you're not constantly using that equity to pay down those credit cards. So let's think a little different.
I'm sorry, I have an update for my question. So
Sure.
the viewer that has the husband with the seasonal income, and she has steady employment, she's saying that they both have really good credit scores. So in that case, should she go first? Should he go first?
No, you can just do borrowing, co-borrower, and they're going to look at both incomes.
Okay, great.
That's fine.
Thank you.
If the scores are the same, that's fine. And it really, the higher, the better your rate. You know, 750 and higher is going to give you the best rate, and 700 to 749 is going to be the second best, and then after each one of those, it's a little different. Anyone else? Thank you guys for coming, and we're going to give you a seasonal pass.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.